taking the test.
Whether you shoot AR-15, some of these weapons shouldn't even be sold.
I don't believe there's a need for AR-15s unless you're going to.
Yes, what do you shoot it at? What do you shoot that at?
Well, I think one thing is interesting to note that one of the largest groups of people actually learning and getting licensed with weapons actually is black women. If you're going up to Action Impact on Gratiot and 8 Mile, you'll see a lot of the classes are black women who are learning how to properly handle and carry firearms. That's just a trend that even the gun store owners see. And so people are arming up. Ammunition is in short supply because people are feeling something that they really shouldn't feel. And this climate of fear, this climate of hate really fuels that, which is why we really got to get somebody in there who's going to lead this country and attempt to bring it somewhat together. We've never been totally together, but we need to be brought and move in that direction.
Well, it's in bad shape. Now, I want to say thank you to Joe. We're going to go ahead and continue the conversation. Thank you for your call.
All right. Thanks, Joe.
What did you make of, thank you. What did you make of the debate last night, Attorney Anthony Adams?
Well, at first I thought that Senator Harris had a major hurdle to overcome. And that major hurdle was being a black woman, being a very smart black woman, being a very aggressive black woman. She had to not come off and act like a person who would be itchy. Let me just say it that way. She had to manage a very thin line between demonstrating her competence, defending herself, but not necessarily offending a broader public who are kind of looking for her to make a mistake. And I was happy to see last night that she didn't make a mistake, that she carried herself well. She corrected him when he needed to be corrected. I mean, my favorite line was Mr. Vice President, I'm speaking. And we all understand that because women have an uphill battle when they're dealing with men because men tend to overspeak and minimize women's input. So I thought she did a great job last night in not losing ground, which is all she had to do.
Do any of you, don't all answer at once, but the polls are showing that Joe Biden and Kamala Harris are in the lead by about, depending on which poll, 11 points up to 16 points.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to get too excited about that because, polls can change in 2 seconds. But they're also saying that more Democrats are going to be voting absentee or mail-in or early voting as opposed to going in.
They're doing it now.
On the 3rd of November.
Right.
They're doing it now just because we don't know what's going to happen. We're kind of scared they might try to pull something. So better to go ahead and do it. I've never done absentee or early voting, but I'm kind of thinking about doing it on Monday because, I don't know what's going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
And I do want my vote to count. Do you all have any inclination on how do you think Trump could actually lose?
Do I think Trump can actually lose?
I think he's actually going to lose. I think it's going to be
I don't trust polls for the simple fact that you're hoping that people are telling the truth when they answer, the poll. And we've already been here before. We got some very stark but very important lessons in 2016. And
I think that
the polls, everybody just knew that Hillary was going to win. Again, the polls to me are just one of many tools. And you can't take your foot off the gas. You can't relax. The off ramp on this thing is after the election is complete. That's when you can take your foot off the gas. And, it's interesting. I've been in a lot of conversations lately, and it's very interesting to me that, Trump's 4 years have in a civics lesson because most people didn't pay this much attention to what was happening in our body politic until it definitely impacted them in such a way. And they had such a character, an asinine character to pay attention to. He almost forces you to pay him some attention. But the one key thing that I was studying not too long ago was that elections require a concession. There's a whole set of laws on the books if he does not concede that will require our diligence, our attention. It won't just be over, and it's very, very easy for those things to continue on unless we forget 2000. We've been here in one form or fashion before. And in 2000, the Supreme Court had to decide that, George W. Bush was the president.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I mean, there's precedent here.
Okay, I'm going to have one at a time. Anthony, go ahead and chime in.
I think part of the whole. I agree that you definitely cannot take the foot off the gas. No one would even suggest that. I actually was one of the few people who felt that Hillary was going to lose because I did feel that there was an undercurrent that people just didn't feel. But I think the undercurrent here is going the other way. The difference between 2016 and 2020 is that we now have had 4 years of Trump. People have actually had the opportunity to see who he is and what he is. And I think that there is a lot of backlash against how he's acted, how he's conducted himself. That doesn't mean that we have to take the foot off the gas because we have to continue to push onward. But now he's dealing with a white man who connects with white men. And I think that's the one thing that Hillary could never do. And so I think there are some perceptible differences between 2016 and 2020. But we just have to keep pushing so that it doesn't come down to one state. Quite frankly, he should not carry any battleground state. If he wins Florida, good for him. But I think that the numbers, that the Electoral College would be resoundingly against him.
Well, Michigan is, he won it by a...
Hold on, Charlie, but I have to say this.
And then
the number from the polls that I find most interesting is that they said 9% of African American men voted for Trump.
People have to remember.
And that gives me pause as we find ourselves, and that was in 2016. And there are actually some polls that I was reading saying it has not deviated that much. It hasn't increased, but it also hasn't decreased.
See, people
and
have to.
I find that to be uniquely interesting.
Yeah, but see, people have to remember Donald Trump was mentioned in probably about something like 200 hip hop songs. Donald Trump was introduced to a whole group of African American men, not because of The Apprentice, but because of hip hop. Okay, I'm not saying they should have voted for him. It's detrimental. It's stupid. Okay, but you see, you got you really have to understand how you had people like Diddy. You had a lot of big black hip hop artists who bragged about being friends with Trump. Things like this. So see, Trump, it wasn't just The Apprentice. It was this whole other persona that Trump had. But very quickly here, because I know time is running short. One, I think Trump is going to lose. Two, 2020 is much different than 2016 for a number of reasons. One, you got about 30 million people who are unemployed. You have the unemployment numbers that just came out this morning. You got about 845,000 more people filed first-time unemployment last week. Two, you have because the unemployment numbers come out at 8:30 a.m. every Thursday morning. Two, when we look at each poll, poll came out Sunday, NBC, Wall Street Journal, Joe Biden up 14 points nationwide. In almost every poll, Biden is up 10 points, 8 points. After the debate, September 29th, 2020, the presidential debate, Biden picked up steam because people are really, one, seeing how horrible Trump is. Two, there's so much pain out here because of his mishandling of coronavirus. 212,000 people dead, 7.5 million cases, no national strategy to attack coronavirus. He's putting his hopes and dreams on a miracle vaccine. Okay. And even if you come up with a vaccine by election day, which is largely unlikely, the efficacy rate of a vaccine is only about 50 to 70%, which means you still have to practice social distancing, wear masks, etc. When we look at polls are a snapshot in time. We go back to 2016. The polls in 2016 were correct about Hillary Clinton. They predicted Hillary Clinton would win the popular vote by between 2% and 4%. She won by about 2%. What was hard to estimate in the polls is the level of voter suppression, because there were about 14 new states that had new voter ID laws. There were 868 fewer polling places in 2016 because Section 5 of the 1965 Voting Rights Act was gutted because of the U.S. Supreme Court case of Shelby County versus Holder. Okay, so today there's 1,700 fewer polling places. There's still rapid voter suppression, but people are more aware of the voter suppression. So as of October 7th, 2020, you have 5.1 million people who've done early voting in 34 states, which is a 640% increase. So 2020 is much different. Okay, can he still win? It's a slim chance, but it's like many people of all different races making sure that he is evicted on January 20th, 2020. This is why we have to vote. Elections have consequences.
And it has to be
it has to be an overwhelming. It's going to be. I don't think it's going to be close. I think it's going to be an
overwhelming defeat. It cannot be close.
I agree. I think it's going to be an overwhelming, crushing defeat, because people understand. People don't want this to be adjudicated in the U.S. Supreme Court. This is why he's trying to push through his Supreme Court nominee, Amy Coney Barrett.
Yeah. Well, Michael, you know what it means when they start playing the music.
Oh, go ahead.
I'm going to say goodbye to you because we have to bring in Keith Williams on the next segment. Leslie and Anthony, stay with us, please. Michael, Thank you so much for being with us tonight.
Tell Keith I said hi. That's my friend, Grits and Politics. All right. Take care. Thanks.
Mm-hmm.
All right, everybody. Okay. So how's everybody doing? So I was a guest on Charlene Mitchell's show, 9:10 on the Superstation WFDF. Mind your business. Let me disconnect this call. I had to call into the station through Skype. So we were talking about the plot to kidnap Governor Gretchen Whitmer, governor of Michigan. It was exposed by the FBI today and law enforcement agencies. You had 13 white men belong to 2 militia groups. Okay. That plotted to kidnap her. They were going to put her on a mock trial. This was centered around they were upset because of her executive orders to shut down certain businesses and require mask wearing and things like this. These are a bunch of Donald Trump supporters. All right. And this this goes right up to the top. This goes right up to Donald Trump. This is why, and she blamed Donald Trump. She said Detroit News reported Whitmer Biden blamed Trump for not condemning hate groups. If you saw, I posted on our Facebook fan page, The African History Network. I posted today. I said, is Trump going to denounce these militia groups, or is he going to tell them stand back and stand by? So read this article from DetroitNews.com. Democratic presidential candidate, Democratic presidential candidate Joe Biden joined Michigan Governor Gretchen Whitmer on Thursday in laying some blame for the plot to kidnap her on President Donald Trump, who they both said did not do enough to condemn white supremacists. Biden told reporters in Phoenix on Thursday that he and vice presidential nominee Kamala Harris both spoke to the governor after they heard state and federal enforcement officials had filed criminal charges against 13 individuals from Michigan and Delaware in the alleged conspiracy that is tied to a militia group. It's actually tied to 2 militia groups, as reported by NBCnews.com. Biden said the words he utters matters, and if he thought Trump's and when asked if he thought Trump's liberate Michigan tweet encouraged militias like this, he said, "Yes, I do." Why won't the president just say stop, 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 and if we will pursue you, and we will pursue you if you don't. Okay, so now notice in Donald Trump's. We broke down right here on this show. We broke down Donald Trump's 2-page platinum plan, which is his black agenda. And I call it a fool's gold plan, a fool's gold plan. One of the elements of his fool's gold plan was to labeled the Ku Klux Klan and the Ku Klux Klan and Antifa as domestic terrorist organizations. Antifa is not an organization. Antifa is an ideology. His FBI director, Christopher Wray, testified to that in front of Congress. And if you read the article from Washington Post from September 17th, 2020, FBI director says Antifa is an ideology, not an organization. Donald Trump disagrees with this and said the FBI director is wrong. Now, the FBI director knows more about this than Donald Trump does. Donald Trump doesn't like Antifa because Antifa means anti-fascism, and they protest against Donald Trump. That's why he doesn't like them. Okay. But Donald Trump is not talking about classifying these militia groups. He's not talking about classifying them as domestic terrorist organizations, and he's not talking about prosecuting them as well. Now, FBI Director Christopher Wray, when we look at this article here from September 17th, 2020 from the Washington Post, FBI Director Christopher Wray told lawmakers Thursday that Antifa is an ideology, not an organization, delivering testimony that puts him at odds with President Donald Trump, who said he would designate it as a terror group. Now, FBI Director Christopher Wray did not dispute that Antifa activists were a serious concern, saying that Antifa was a, quote, real thing, end quote, and that the FBI had undertaken, quote, any number of properly predicated investigations into what we would describe as violent anarchist extremists, end quote, including into individuals who identify with Antifa. But Antifa is an ideology. He said, but he said, quote, it's not a group or an organization. It's a movement or an ideology. This is what Antifa is. Now, that characterization contradicts the depiction that Trump, who in June 2020 singled out Antifa, short for anti-fascist, and an umbrella term for far left-leaning militant groups as responsible for the violence that followed George Floyd's death. Trump tweeted that the U.S. would be designating Antifa as a terrorist organization, even though such designations are historically reserved for foreign groups, and Antifa lacks the hierarchical structure of formal organizations. Now, the hearing before the House Homeland Security Committee, established after the September 11th attacks to confront the threat of international terrorism, focused almost entirely on domestic matters, including violence by white supremacists as well as anti-government extremists. Anti-government extremists, like these two militia groups that were arrested today. The members of these two militia groups that were arrested today. Now, the topics underscored the shift of attention by law enforcement at a time of intense divisions and polarization inside the country, largely being fueled by Donald Trump. This is reason number 103 why he must be voted out of office. He is encouraging this. He is providing cover for them. Okay. But one area where foreign threats were addressed was in the presidential election and Russia's attempts to interfere in the campaign. FBI Director Christopher Wray sought to make clear the scope of the threats the country faces while resisting lawmakers' attempts to steer him into politically charged statements. When asked whether extremists on the left or the right pose the bigger threat, when asked whether extremists on the left or the right posed the bigger threat, he pivoted instead to an answer about how solo actors or so-called lone wolves with easy access to weapons were a primary concern. Okay. Now, quote, we don't really think of threats in terms of left, right at the FBI. We're focused on the violence, not the ideology, FBI Director Christopher Wray said later. Now, he said racially motivated violent extremists, such as white supremacists, have been responsible for the most lethal attacks in the U.S. in recent years. This is FBI Director Christopher Wray testifying in front of the U.S. House of Representatives Homeland Security Committee. He said that racially motivated violent extremists, such as white supremacists, have been responsible for the most lethal attacks in the U.S. in recent years. But this year, 2020, the most has come from anti-government activists, such as anarchists and militia types, FBI Director Christopher Wray said. Okay, like these two militias that were arrested today, these 13 men who were plotting to kidnap Governor Gretchen Whitmer. They were plotting to storm the state capitol in Lansing, Michigan, which is the capital of Michigan, and to kidnap some elected officials, including Governor Gretchen Whitmer. FBI Director Christopher Wray, when he testified in September in front of the Homeland Security, House of Representatives Homeland Security Committee, also affirmed the intelligence community's assessment of right interference in the November 2020 election, which he said was taking the form of foreign influence campaigns aimed at sowing discord and swaying public opinion, as well as efforts to denigrate Democratic presidential nominee Joe Biden. Because Russia is once again involved in a disinformation campaign. Okay, Christopher Wray also affirmed the intelligence community's assessment of Russian interference in the November 2020 election, which he said was taking the form of influence campaigns aimed at sowing discord and swaying public opinion, as well as efforts to denigrate Democratic presidential nominee Joe Biden. FBI Director Christopher Wray said that the U.S. had not yet seen targeting of election infrastructure like in 2016, but efforts to sow doubt about the election's integrity are a serious, steady drumbeat of information and of smaller cyber intrusions. I worry that they will contribute over time to a lack of confidence of American voters and citizens in the validity of their vote, end quote. And there's a massive effort to suppress the vote, especially the African-American vote, Hispanic vote, etc. So check out the rest of this article here from Washington Post. FBI director says Antifa is an ideology, not an organization. Okay, this is from September 16th, 2020. All right. How's everybody doing? Everybody share this broadcast on your social media platforms. Invite your friends to tune in. So we'll talk some about this this plot to kidnap the governor this weekend. Now, our state's attorney general, Dana Nessel, was interviewed by Katie Tur on MSNBC today. And state attorney Dana Nessel said that this plot right here is the iceberg from what she thinks. She's going to be more process coming. Basically intimated that there were more people involved in this plot also. But she said this is not the only organization involved in plotting things like this. So she said this is basically the tip of the iceberg. So stay tuned. All right, hey guys, look, listen to our Sunday night show, the African History Network show, Sundays 9 p.m. to 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, right here on 9:10 a.m. We broadcast here on Facebook and YouTube, Michael Imhotep, and then we broadcast on 9:10 a.m. to Superstation WFDF. Okay, I was just on Charlene Mitchell's show, Mind Your Business, show on 9:10 a.m. here in Detroit. I do radio here in Detroit. Friday, October 9th, 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, I'll make my debut on Roland Martin Unfiltered, Roland's daily digital show. So you see us share the broadcast every day, Monday through Friday, from Roland Martin Unfiltered. So I'll be a panelist on his show, October 9th, 2020. Show airs 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We'll share it here as well. If you like this type of information, you can donate to the $, the Cash HN show through Cash App, and then also through PayPal, paypal.me, the AHN show. That helps us keep doing the research, stay on the air, keep broadcasting, finance our Sunday night show, etc. All right. So look, hey, we have to get out of here. Remember at the African History Network, we focus on educating, empowering, and inspiring people of African descent throughout the diaspora and around the world, because right now it's corrects wrong behavior. What you do for yourself, what you do to yourself, and what you allow people to do to you, and what you think yourself. On our we'll continue vice presidential debate. So I did half hours last night after the debate. Go watch that. It's been viewed over 20,000 times. Go watch that. And we have more. I couldn't get to everything last night, but some other topics that we're going to go through and fact check their statements. We'll do that on the show as well. So look out for that. Okay. Remember, right now it's corrects wrong behavior. It's not over till we win. Wakanda forever. And we'll talk to you next time. Peace.